107 years ago.
You are now listening to
The Red Dot.
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. You're a lying dog-faced Tony soldier. You said you were.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
I think he spelled that wrong.
Well, that was a show there, Dingo.
That was enlightening.
Yes, it was. And this brings us
To
the bonus episode.
A bonus so good it'll give you a bonus. It'll give you all bonus.
Dingo.
It'll give you all bonus.
So,
because that's what we do. We give bonus.
if I'm not gonna keep in the Russian dad part because I was recording the whole time there. But what I will
This
do
is okay.
is
I
I'll let
spent time. I can do the Russian accent. No problem.
So to the listeners, Dingo's been practicing his Russian because we ran through the bonus script, which we're calling "I Want to Believe," and it is adventurous.
It's true. We give ourselves bonus before we give you bonus. Much bonus to be had.
So I'd have to say I'm excited about doing this.
Dude, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
You went balls to the wall.
Yes,
on
I
this
did,
one.
and we're gonna try and do this in one take. But
What?
I don't want to have a whole bunch of transitioning scenes, so we're gonna try.
Well, hopefully I not need to pour vodka into my eye when I try to teach these people how to drink like a Russian.
So, you ready to begin this, Dingo?
My balls
go down
are
this
itching
fucking
to
journey.
start. Yes,
let's
let's
go down this fucking journey.
Let's do
So-
without pickle.
So, the bonus episode is called "I Want to Believe,"
So get your bonus out. We start now.
and if you are marijuana smokers, take a big fat rip from the bowl. If you are alcohol drinkers, pour yourself a glass. Hang out. It's gonna be a little bit. We're gonna take you down a wild story that was made up in my head.
This glass mine. Nobody touch.
And our main topic is going to be about the unclassified documents the Pentagon released on the strange UFO sightings in government airspace and water.
So, yes, he's been working on this 4 months.
Yes.
Because I remember reading through this and being like, those got declassified like in June.
Well, I think the first time I read you this and we were talking about this, you were like, nobody's going to want to listen to this.
I was probably just being a dick.
Yeah, probably. But so on June 3rd, the New York Times and CNN interviewed senior administration officials who were briefed on the unclassified government report that the U.S. Intelligence Committee delivered to Congress on June 25th.
There's good joke. U.S. intelligence.
And I fucking hate CNN, so we will just source the New York Times. Because they're better, I guess.
Marginally.
So, just kind of looking over here real quick to make sure we're still recording and nothing's gone wrong.
It looks good.
Okay, according to the New York Times, American intelligence officials have found no evidence that the witnessed UFOs in the report are alien spacecraft. But they still cannot explain what the UFOs are. The report is said to cover more than 120 incidents that did not originate from any American military or other advanced U.S. government technology. I call bullshit, Dingo.
Me too.
Yeah, there's no way that our paranoid government is just going to brush off the things flying around in our airspace as something we just can't explain.
Not a chance.
They have a hard time doing anything else.
Indeed.
I can almost guarantee you that we know what these things are, and we have known the origins of these UFOs for decades. So, you might be asking, What makes you so sure that they are lying? What information do you have that we obviously don't have? Sit down and strap in. You will be joining Dingo on a roller coaster ride of information. You see, all you have to do is follow the paperwork. And what I mean by paperwork is leaked government operations, articles from sketchy websites, YouTube videos, in the depths of what some may call the asshole of the internet. Count yourself lucky, because I did all that so you don't have to.
The asshole of the internet. You just got to pound through it.
So let's jump into this. In order to understand what the government knows and how they came about this information, we have to dive into some history, Dingo.
Well, where does that history start there, Scrap?
It all starts with the Nazis. Of course it does.
Who saw that coming?
It always starts with the Nazis. So,
Little Nazis.
Operation Paperclip. What a weird fucking name, huh?
Yep.
It's named Paperclip because the military would put paperclips over the folder of the Nazi POWs we wanted to employ.
It's not because of the little helper in Microsoft Word.
You know what? Fuck. To those who I have not scared away and are still listening, Operation Paperclip was a secret U.S. intelligence program where we took 1,600 Nazi scientists, engineers, and technicians into government employment after the end of WW2. Yes, most of them were leaders of the Nazi Party. The primary purpose for the operation was to gain advantage over the Soviet Union. The British MI6 got word of a list called the Ozenberg List. The list identified the most useful Nazi POWs. MI6 then transmitted that letter to the U.S. and Operation Paperclip was born.
So, fascinating fact
What's
before you go on right there. MI6, James Bond, and all that jazz, was created during World War II. So this is like the origin. It stands for Military Intelligence Section 6. But there was no MI6 before World War II.
So James Bond was created thus then as well.
Roughly about the same time that Sean Connery started acting.
What?
Don your tinfoil hat on that one.
So, upon interviewing the Nazis, we learned about the German wonder weapons, aka the Wunderwaffe. But before we jump into the Wunderwaffe, we need to talk about the Foo Fighters.
I love that band.
No, it's not the band.
Well, then why are we talking about them?
Because Foo Fighters were something else, something we could not explain during WW2.
Being what?
Every side saw them. USA, British, Russia, Japan, and Germany.
Really?
Yeah. Side note, foo is 1930 slang for nonsense.
Is that where that comes from?
I don't know.
Foo!
What you doing, foo? Foo!
Committed foo!
The first sightings occurred in November 1944.
Whoa, hold on. Does that mean the Foo Fighters band, they're fighting nonsense? Is that what their name means?
Whoa. U.S. pilots were flying over Western Europe. They reported seeing fast-moving objects following their aircraft. From then on, though, there would be tons of sightings by pilots. The objects were described as glowing. The objects would toy with aircraft, make wild turns, and then just vanish. Some reported that the objects would fly in formation with their aircraft and behaved as if they were under intelligent control. Some pilots had even tried to shoot down or outmaneuver the objects, but failed.
Failure.
The U.S. thought they might be German secret weapons, but as stated earlier, the German and Japanese reported similar sightings. These Foo Fighters are what stoked German interest in the Wunderwaffe.
Wunderwaffe!
Wunderwaffe is German for wonder weapon. The Nazis were ahead of their time with these so-called wonder weapons. Now, most of them were prototypes and never made it to mass production. And realistically, we are very lucky the war ended when it did because a couple of devastating Wunderwaffe were on the list to start mass production. One of those prototypes on its way to mass production was the Arardo AR-234 Blitz. The 234 Blitz was the first jet-powered bomber introduced into combat theater in 1944.
Why do they call it combat theater?
You know what? Maybe it's just because it's a spectacle to see.
It just seems pretentious, doesn't it? It sounds like so. Well, in combat theater in 1944.
Goddamn Yankees.
I feel like you have to say it like this. Combat theater.
So, the aircraft could reach speeds of 700 kilometers per hour.
780, and holy shit.
And freedom units, that's 484 miles per hour. Just to give some contract, the U.S. Mustang, which was the best fighter plane in WW2, reached speeds of 716 kilometers per hour, which is 445 miles per hour. Which, obviously, that fucking beats it. And is scary. But there's a picture there for you.
40 miles an hour. Basically passed you like you were stopped.
Yes. So there's a picture of it, and it kind of looks like our jet fighter planes right now.
It does, but honestly, this picture kind of looks like it came from Battlefield 1942.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that's where I pulled it from, Dingo.
It looks computer generated.
Another weapon was the Horton Ho 229.
Horton, here's a hoe.
Which was a jet fighter bomber. In the final months of the war, it was in production to be mass produced. And there's a picture of, yes, it looks like our stealth bomber.
Identical.
Yeah. Yes.
The flying wing.
Yes. In reality, those two Wunderwaffe definitely progressed our military advantage. But it was two other prototypes that we were really interested in. The first one was the V2. And there's a picture for you, Dingo.
It's a rocket.
Mm-hmm. The V2 was a long-range ballistic missile. The V2 would be the prototype that would eventually take us to the moon. The other prototype is shrouded in myth and mystery. The Bell UFO, or the Nazi Bell. It is said that the Bell was made in the facility known as Der Reis.
Der Reis!
It was an anti-gravity aircraft operated by two counter-rotating cylinders filled with the violet-colored substance similar to mercury. This metallic liquid was called Zerum 525. Early testing of the Bell was catastrophic. Strong radiation emitted from the device, which led to deaths of several scientists.
Okay, now I remember you reading this shit to me months ago. That is from a book. God, what book is that? The it was the it's from the Ivory Verse. It's from God Killers. It's from the God Killers, and that is and they used it to make Ogundium.
Well, Dingo, sometimes truth
is stolen from fiction.
Yes.
It's a goddamn graphic novel, man. All right. We're off to a roaring start.
Yes, we are. According to legend, Nazi Germany constructed only two bells. One of the bell was said to be destroyed. The other bell, named Jew 390, has not been recovered.
Jew 390.
To kind of show the Nazi bell was real and not a myth, an Italian newspaper in 1950 called, I don't know how the fuck to say that,
Il Giornale
d'Italia, said a professor named Giuseppe Belluso.
Giuseppe
Belluso. I'm going to say with Giuseppe Belluso.
Right. Why not? They spelled it wrong.
An Italian scientist and former minister under Mussolini claimed that the types of flying discs were designed and studied in Germany and Italy as early as 1942. Belluso also expressed the opinion that, quote, some great power is launching discs to study them, end quote.
Pull! It didn't make it.
The CIA also released classified documents that acknowledged flying saucers in East Germany. Dingo will read in a Russian accent. And here's the reading from that document. Berlin, July 1952, furnished with the sworn testimony of eyewitness Oskar Linke, a 48-year-old German, former mayor of Gluschnischen, West Berlin Intelligence Office, have begun...
Gleimershausen? I think it's Gleimershausen.
Have begun investigation, a most unusual flying saucer story. According to the story, an object, quote, resembling a huge flying pan, and having a diameter of 15 meters landed in the forest clearing in the Soviet zone of Germany. Linky recently escaped from the Soviet zone along with his wife and 6 children. Linky and his 11-year-old daughter, Gabriella, made the following sworn statements last week before a judge.
Well, I was returning to my home with Gabriella. A tire of my motorcycle blew out near the town of Hasselbach. While we were walking along toward Hasselbach, Gabriella pointed out something which lay at a distance of about 140 meters away from us. Since it was twilight, I thought that she was pointing at young deer. I left my motorcycle near 3 and walked toward the spot which Gabriella had pointed out. When, however, I reached a spot about 55 meters from object, I realized that my first impression had been wrong. What I had seen were 2 men dressed like deer, who were now about 40 meters away from me. They seemed to be dressed in shiny metallic clothing, somehow I mistake for deer. They were stooped over and were looking at something lying on the ground. I approached until I was only about 10 meters from them. I looked over a small fence, and then I noticed a large object whose diameter I estimated to be between 13 and 15 meters. It looked like a huge frying pan. There were 2 rows of holes on its periphery, about 30 centimeters in circumference. I remember this because I have mind like steel trap. The space between the 2 rows was about exactly 0.45 meters.
Damn, okay.
On the top of this metal object was black conical tower about exactly 3 meters high. At that moment, my daughter, who had remained short distance behind me, actually precisely 7.3 meters behind me, calls me. The 2 men must have heard my daughter's voice because they immediately jump up on the conical tower and disappear inside. I had previously noted that one of the men had a lamp on the front of his body which lit up at regular intervals. Now the side of object on which the holes had been opened began to glitter. Its color seemed green, but later turned red. At the same time, I began to hear slight hum. While the brightness and hum increased, the conical tower began to slide down into the center of the object, precisely 0.35 meters short. The whole object began to rise slowly from the ground and rotate like top at precisely 0.25 meters per second. It seemed to me as if it were supported by the cylindrical plant which had gone down from the top 0.25 meters of the object through the center and had now appeared from its bottom on the ground. The object, surrounded by a ring of flames, was now a certain number of feet, I'm gonna use feet now, above ground. I then noted that the whole object had risen slowly from the ground. The cylinder on which it was supported had now disappeared within its center and had reappeared on the top of the object. The rate of climb compared to the rate of descent, divided by the circumference of the planet and the spinning of the Earth, had now become greater. At the same time, my daughter and I heard whistling sounds similar to that when a bomb falls. The object rose to a horizontal position, turned toward a neighboring town, and then, gaining altitude, it disappeared over the heights and forests in the direction of Stockheim.
Several others who live in the same area as Linky later related that they saw an object which they thought to be a comet. A shepherd stated that he thought that he was looking at a comet moving away at a low altitude from the height on which Linky stood. After submitting his testimony to the judge, Linky made the following statements.
Actually, Judge, hold on, I think of more. I would have thought that both my daughter and I were dreaming if it were not for the following element involved. When the object had disappeared, I went to the place where it had been. Duh! I found a circular opening in the ground, and it was quite evident that it was freshly dug. It was exactly same shape as the conical tower. I was then convinced that I was not dreaming. I did see 2 men dressed like deer climb into metal bell. I had never heard of the term flying saucer before I escaped from Soviet zone into West Berlin. When I saw this object, I immediately thought that it was new Soviet military machine. I confess that I was seized with fright because the Soviets do not want anyone to know about their work. Many persons have been restricted to their movements for many years in East Germany because they know too much.
Great job, dude. So, a quick note. Serum 525 was derived from the gems called blue almasi, and processed further a rare ore agundum, both found from the Mount Kenya. In the 1930s, the British suspected the Germans of planning an invasion in East Africa. It's later theorized as being a German covert operation to attain blue almasi. I never can say that right. Almasi and agundium for the projects of the Third Reich. Shortly after WW2, agundium was also discovered as a result of Operation Paperclip.
And all of this was taken from the Fandom Wiki website for the Ivory Verse.
No, Dingo. Sometimes truth
It's a book.
is stranger than fiction.
It's a book.
No,
The
no,
God
it's
Killer.
not.
Yes, it is.
So you might be asking, how the fuck did the Nazis gain such advanced knowledge in rocketry and unknown elements? Were they just smart as fuck? No.
Oh.
No. The answer to that question is the Vril Society.
Oh, of course, the Vril.
The Vril. The Vril Society was a break-off cult that believed there was a subterranean race of humans called the Vrilya that harnessed an unknown energy called Vril Force. Maria Orsic, the founder of the Vril Society, was originally a member of the Thule Society. The Thule Society was a German occultist group founded in Munich shortly after WW1. It was named after a mythical northern country in Greek legend. Leaders of the Thule Society would later create the organization called the German Workers' Party, which we all know what that turned into, right?
Socialism.
Hey, yes, it turned into the National Socialist German Workers' Party, aka the Nazi Party. Notable members of the Thule Society were Heinrich Himmler, Alfred Pussenberg, and Hermann Göring. All three of these men would be high-ranking officers in the Nazi Party, Hermann Göring being Hitler's second in command. Oh yeah, I almost forgot Hitler was also a member of the Thule Society as well. Weird, huh? Remember the Thule Society because they will come up later. But let's focus back on the Vril Society. And from here on out, I will be calling the Vril Society the VS. The VS was founded in 1921 to explore the origins of the Aryan race. Man. Oof. To seek contact with the Vrilya and learn the techniques to master the divine Vril force. The VS was made up of female mediums, which had to have long hair because long hair acted like an antenna to focus Vril energy. The VS was led by Maria Orsic. Maria Orsic received a communication from the Aryan aliens living on Alpha Tauri in the Aldebaran star system. And yes, this is a real star system. Alpha Tauri is a giant star about 665 light years away from our own sun in the zodiac constellation Taurus. So fuck you, Dingo.
It's true. I looked it up. It's real. Their sun is the Aldebaran. Is that how you pronounce it? I think is Aldebaran. Alpha Tauri. It's a giant star. It's 444 times the size of our planet, but there's also likely a planetary object that is, but going in circumference? What is the word I'm looking for here?
But what'd you say, Dingo?
There is a planetary object that is 2 astronomical units away, which with a sun that big is within the life-sustaining belt. So it is likely that there could be life on this planet 65 light years away.
So would you say, Dingo, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction?
I still think it's all stolen from fiction.
These Aryan aliens had visited Earth in the past and would later make a settlement, and due to the cataclysmic events, some of the Aryan would later settle in Sumeria. The word Vril was allegedly formed from the Sumerian word Vril, meaning like God. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say this. How the medians harnessed Vril energy is they would have massive orgies with the Thule Society and occasionally sacrifice a kid here and there.
That makes sense.
Also, the women were really hot. Like hot.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Hot.
I bet they were. They're just amazing. Out of this world. Every single one of them. Scarlett Johansson.
Yes. No. Hotter.
Hot.
Hotter.
Bullshit.
Blonde-haired, blue-eyed.
AOC?
Maria, in 1919, received a transmission from the aliens in the secret Templar script, which means it was an unknown language. Why they call it the Templar script, I don't know.
Probably something to do with the Knights Templar.
Maybe.
Be my guess.
These telepathic messages from the aliens would come in sections for a little over a year. These messages would be an origin story, instructions on how to harness the Vril, and how to build what later would become the most mysterious Wunderwaffe, the bell.
Okay, hold on.
All right.
Hold on. Maria, in 1919, received a transmission from the aliens telepathically?
Telepathically,
So
buddy.
she's like, hold on. I've got another message.
And she had the longest hair, buddy, so she's the only one that could
She had the
receive it.
longest hair, of course. She's got the biggest antenna.
If we were to pull up a picture of her, like her hair was down to her ass. Like she was hot. Hot.
Because that's all it takes. Rapunzel-like hair. If I could climb up you, great. All right, you're hot.
I would definitely climb up her all day, Dingo.
Is there a picture of this gal?
Yeah, you can look it up.
What do I put in?
It's
Maria Orsic?
Yeah, Orsic, yeah. Yeah, huh? I wasn't lying.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know they made him like that back then.
Yeah.
All right.
And
okay,
every
all right,
single
yep.
one of them looked exactly like her. So
Because they're all clones.
maybe.
Likely.
Yeah, like.
Oh my God! Look at that fucking hair.
Yeah, I told you, down to her ass, dude.
Jesus.
So, here's a summary of one of the messages the VS Median received over the years. Now, most of these messages were compiled by an author named Juan Van Helsing. In his banned book called
Jan,
Secret
Jan,
Society.
it's
I'm
German.
calling him Juan.
He wants it to be Mexican so bad. It's not. It's Jan. J-A-N.
And this book was also banned in Germany, by the way. So, Dingo, take it away.
The solar system Aldebaran has a sun around which revolve 2 inhabited planets that form the Empire Sumeran. The population of the Aldebaran is divided into the original pure race of people, Aryans, and several other human races that had devolved by genetic mutation from their parent population because of climatic changes, Freudian slip, brought about by nuclear war upon the planets. The more the races intermixed, the lower the spiritual development of these people collectively sank, which led to the situation that when the sun Alderaan was blown up by the dark side, they could no longer maintain the space travel technology of their forefathers, and could not leave the planets by their own means. The genetically degraded races, totally dependent upon the master race, Aryans, had to be evacuated and were brought to other inhabitable planets. They colonized our solar system, starting with the planet...
There's that double L. It makes me want to do it in Spanish.
Malona, also called Maldek, Marduk, which are both kill words in Dune. Or Phaeton among the Russians, nobody understands why. That existed at the time between Mars and Jupiter, now occupied by the asteroid belt. They got blown up by the dark side. Despite their physical and cultural differences, all the races respected one another and did not interfere with each other, neither the so-called genetically pure people nor the mutated hybrid races. Each respected that the others just made their own developments, and I would know this because I'm from there.
I injected a lot of my own shit into that.
So, through these messages, the VS and the Thule built a belief system, and upon this belief system, they became quite powerful and influential. No, I mean, which all you have to do is look at the Nazi Party for an example.
As one would expect.
From these messages, they gained unknown knowledge, learned about the subterranean race called the Vril Ya, learned how to harness the Vril force, and learned how to construct flying machines. which we know they built because the U.S. obtained secret archives that depicted the flying machines, and it stated in the archives that 2 were built. Obviously, we never found them. Also, in messages, they were also given a location of where you could find the real and where the Aryan lived. Where does that beeping coming from?
The bullshit alarm.
So, the Aryan civilization was said to have originally settled in the northmost reaches of the earth.
Great spot to start. You can do a lot of farming up there. It's really
There's a lot of water, Dingo. There's a lot of water.
Climate. Just have to melt it a little bit first.
This place was called Thule. Thule was the capital of the legendary Greek polar country Hyperbia.
That's definitely a polar country.
Thule was a hub for advanced science and technology. When the Great Flood happened, the Aryan found refuge in subterranean caverns.
In the ice?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Well, hold on. They're in the North Pole.
No, they're in the northern reaches of the planet. It doesn't say they're in the North Pole.
Well, it's the northernmost. Which would be the North Pole, right?
No, it doesn't mean that it's the North Pole. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. Fiction. Okay,
all right. Quit poking holes in your balsa wood boat that you've built here.
The Aryan of Hyperbia, after the Great Flood, would wage war against other neighboring civilizations.
Because they were all up there.
The lore from the ancient Greeks says the war escalated into the use of what we call atomic weapons. This would lead to the Aryan defeating their enemies, but would also negatively affect them as well. Those who did not suffer genetic damage would band together and stay in the subterranean caverns, and the rest would spread out, colonizing various northern areas, spreading their knowledge of agriculture and astronomy. These genetically damaged Aryan would later become the Scots, the Basques, the Scandinavians, Gauchos, Berbers, Icelanders, Inuit of Japan, Iran and Indian ruling class, Eurasian steppe Chinese, Tibetans, Caucasoid, pharaohs of Egypt, prototype Greeks, certain Native American, Mesoamerican, and Southern American tribes.
Now, I noticed right here you say genetically damaged, but then you don't go on to list Canadians?
Because Canadians don't matter.
They're genetically damaged. They should be on the list.
We have listeners in Canada, Dingo, so we're sorry, Canadians.
Sorry that you're genetically damaged.
So, in the
I'm just kidding. I love you, Canada.
1930s, the Nazis set up a base called Base 211 in the Antarctic to search for the subterranean world and civilization.
You know what the name of that base was?
What was the name of the base?
Steel Reserve.
God damn it.
That's where we get Steel Reserve 211.
Yeah, I know. Hey.
I didn't even know I was going to be on this show. Hey. You're not. Get out of here.
The base would later be the place that the Nazis would escape to during the last days of the Eastern Front in WW2. Now, this base has not yet been found and thought of as myth, but in 2014, the Russians found a Nazi base in the North Pole.
Wow, that recently?
Yeah.
Jesus.
The base was built in 1942. More than 500 objects were found, including tons of documents. So, the idea of there being a Nazi base in Antarctica is not too far-fetched.
No, it's not.
In 1991, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the KGB released classified files that exposed a U.S. naval expedition to Antarctica in 1947, and a map from the Nazis from WW2 detailing direct passageways used by German U-boats to access subterranean domains. And there goes the bullshit alarm again. Dingo has a picture down here of what the KGB released and found in that Base 211.
Yeah, and it's basically a 2D view, all right? So you got what you can see above the water level, and then you have the water level, and then you have the cave system and whatnot that's going on below.
Yes.
It would be absolutely necessary for any sort of
Subterranean.
deep sea navigation.
Yes. So,
or subsea navigation, whatever.
This statement of a naval expedition brings us to our next character of this descent into madness. His name is
Larry
Admiral
Bird.
Admiral Richard Dick Byrd.
Oh, it's not Admiral Larry Bird?
Of the U.S. Navy, pioneered exploration of both poles. His first was to the North Pole for his record-setting flight to be the first to fly over the North Pole. According to the published book, A Flight to the Land Beyond the North Pole, the missing diary of Admiral Richard E. Byrd. During his polar flight, Byrd came across a warm, luscious climate with mammoth-like creatures. His plane was commandeered mid-air and landed for him by a mysterious race of humans. Saucer-shaped aircraft accompanied his landing. Upon landing, he was met by emissaries of the mysterious people and led to a meeting room.
Okay, hold on. If the climate is warm and lush, why would the creatures have long fur like a mammoth to stay warm?
No. He saw creatures that resembled mammoths.
I know, but why would they have developed this luscious fur in a warm climate?
Well, because if you go to Russia and the Scandinavian area, they have luscious warm climates during the summertime. And
Oh, do they really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just always shitty, black and white. Everybody was poor, and
Well,
it was always frozen.
2 months out of the year, it's luscious.
Sounds like Essequa. All right.
So here's an excerpt from the book mentioned earlier.
I bid you welcome to our domain, Admiral.
I see a man with delicate features and with the etching of years upon his face. He is seated at a long table. He motions me to sit down in one of the chairs. After I am seated, he places his fingertips together and smiles. He speaks softly again and convoys the following.
We have let you enter here because you are of noble character and well known on the surface world, Admiral.
Surface world?
It's a weird fucking word. Where'd you come up with Admiral?
I half gasped underneath my breath.
Yeah, it is weird. You are in the domain of the Ariadne, the inner world of the Earth. We shall not long delay your mission, and you will be safely escorted back to the surface and for a distance beyond. But now, Admiral, I shall tell you why you have been summoned here. Our interest rightly begins just after your race exploded the first atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. I think is what you call it. Japan, I don't know. It was at an alarming time, and we sent our flying machines, the Flugorods, to your surface world to investigate what your race had done. That is, of course, past history now, my dear Admiral. But I must continue on. You see, we have never interfered before in your race's wars and barbarity. But now we must, for you have learned to tamper with a certain power that is not for man, namely that of atomic energy. Our emissaries have already delivered messages to the powers of your world, and yet they do not heed. Now you have been chosen to be witness here that our world does exist. You see, our culture and science are many thousands of years beyond your race, Admiral.
But what does this have to do with me, sir? The master's eyes seemed to penetrate deeply into my mind, and after studying me for a few moments, he replied,
Your race has now reached the point of no return. For there are those among you who would destroy your very world rather than relinquish their power as they know it.
I nodded, and the master continued.
All right. In 1945 and afterward, we tried to contact your race, but our efforts were met with hostility. Our Flugorods were fired upon, yes, even pursued with malice and animosity by your fighter planes. Maybe the Foo Fighters? I hear lots about them. So now I say to you, my son. No response. I can call you that. We don't even know each other. I can call you my son. Humans. Okay. There's a great storm gathering in your world, a black fury that will not spend itself for many years. There will be no answer in your armies. There will be no safety in your science. It may rage on until every flower of your culture is trampled and all human things are leveled in vast chaos. Your recent war has only a prelude of what is yet to come for your race. We here see it more clearly with each hour. Do you say I am mistaken?
No, I answered. It happened once before. The Dark Ages came, and they lasted for more than 500 years.
Yes, my son.
replied the master.
Still nothing. You don't care that I call you my son. This is... why did we even bring you down here? Right, look, the dark ages that will come now for your race will cover the earth like a palm, but I believe that some of your race will live through the storm. Beyond that, cannot say. We see at a great distance a new world stirring from the ruins of your race, seeking its lost and legendary treasures, and they will be here, my son. Jesus. Safe in our keeping. When that time arrives, we shall come forward again to help revive your culture and your race. Perhaps by then you will have learned the futility of war and its strife, and after that time, certain of your culture and science will be returned for your race to begin anew. You, my son, are to return to the surface world with this message.
With those closing words, the meeting ended.
Can you believe this guy? The entire time he lets me call him my son.
Admiral Byrd stood and bowed, and 2 women escorted him through a great door and entered an elevator and returned to his plane and was told, you must give this message to your race.
I bet he liked that. Those were my Scarlett Johansson clones that I had him escorted to the surface with. Do you think he noticed? Yes, I know. It was a great idea, the Scarlett Johansson clones.
And sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. All right, so if this story is real, everyone with high ranks all the way up to the president would have been briefed, which probably made him, Admiral Byrd, the best leader for the later mission. The mission is called Operation High Jump. Operation High Jump was one of the largest operations ever conducted in Antarctica, with over 4,000 men sent to study, map, and reside on the continent for 8 months. The expedition included 13 Navy support ships, 33 aircraft carriers, planes, and helicopters.
33 aircraft.
Yeah, it's a little bit overkill, huh?
That's all of them. Back then, that's all of them from every
Well, maybe we
country.
just left a couple.
Because what? There's like 40 in the world or something.
And dude, there's
not
an actual documentary on here that is a fake documentary because I will not allow it to be true.
Oh.
It's about the expedition of Operation High
Yeah,
Jump.
there's a fake documentary?
Yeah.
You just prefer this real one?
No, this is the real one. As stated earlier, the expedition was to last 8 months. But it only lasted 8 weeks and resulted in several fatalities. You're probably wondering, why did the expedition end so early? And what's up with those fatalities?
What is up with those fatalities?
Well, according to KGB declassified files that a historian named Christopher Andrew archived into a book from the typescript notes that were smuggled out of Russia by Vasily the Oh, God damn you, who worked in the KGB intelligence between 1972 and 1984. God damn. I knew you were going to throw something in there. No, it was not Vasily the dumpling, guys.
He's the slap master. If you listen to the last episode. Anyway, I don't remember what was really in there, but it was Vasily the something.
Vasily, we'll just go with that.
Finally got you with one.
Detailed the crew members of Task Force 68 while passing through the Chilean ports. Spoke to Chilean press about an incident that happened during their expedition, which made them have to retreat and end their expedition early. Admiral Byrd himself revealed in a press interview that Task Force 68 had encountered a new enemy that could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds.
That's incredible.
I thought I heard a knock.
I did too. Hand me my claymore. I shall investigate.
Here's a quote from the reports. Quote. Admiral Byrd declared today that it was imperative for the United States to initiate immediate defense measures against hostile regions. The Admiral further stated that he didn't want to frighten anyone unduly, but it was a bitter reality that in case of a new war, the continental United States would be attacked by flying objects which could fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds.
Incredible.
So, guys, there's some background story for you, and real government operations that will help back my theory, you know? So let's continue on with this history lesson that the government would rather you not know. You see, with all the information and files we had gotten from the Nazis through their scientists, mathematicians, engineers, and also from the 2 encounters Admiral Byrd had with other beings and their advanced technology, we learned that we could make contact with these beings without having to travel to the poles. We could do it from our own backyard. Which brings us to the infamous Dulce Base.
Sweet bass.
Sweet bass, bro.
Sweet bass, bro.
Do you think they just like the fucking mountains are just constantly just
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. You see, the government's interest in Dulce, New Mexico, stretches back to the 1930s. There are caves that go deep into the earth. These caves also come with ancient Native American lore.
Ancient Native American lore.
Side note, all of this is sourced from a documentary called Underground. It's actually really good. You guys should go watch it. The Native Americans who lived in the area of Dulce Caverns said they saw gravel roads being built by a lumber company, which is odd because they have no trees in the area.
Right.
What is also odd is they never saw any lumber being transported.
So why did they think it was a lumber company?
Because it said lumber company on the side of the truck.
It literally said lumber company?
Yes.
Terrible cover. Terrible cover.
All they saw were trucks that looked like they had heavy machinery on them.
Wow.
So, through Operation Paperclip, we gained knowledge of advanced tunneling technology from Franz Xavier Dorsch. Xavier was part of the TORT organization, which was the top civil and military engineering organization for the Nazis. Only the best of the best could be part of the TORT. TORT was created by Fritz Todt, who was a high-ranking officer of the Nazi Party, of course. Xavier worked closely with Fritz. Xavier was chief engineer for the organization TORT, which made him a valuable asset to America. So, fast forward from 1945 to 1954. The construction of the multi-level Dulce base, and when I say multi-leveled, I'm saying like 7+ levels going underneath ground.
Jesus.
Has been going on for several years now. In 1954, we finally made contact with the mystical beings Byrd encountered.
Allegedly.
No. On February 20th, 1954, President Eisenhower interrupted his vacation in Palm Springs to make a secret nocturnal trip to a nearby Air Force base. Now, skeptics will say Eisenhower's nocturnal trip was just him going to a dentist because he chipped his tooth while eating chicken wings at a dinner.
It's true.
But
I
I
was
will say
there.
to the skeptics, what dentist is awake in the middle of the night and what dentist works on an Air Force base?
Well, not only was I there, I was also the dentist, and I was also the president.
Well, what
So
do you
I
have
can
to
tell you, I went and operated on myself in the middle of the night because I ate chicken wings at a dinner.
Well, then what do you have to say about Michael Sally? He has a PhD, Dingo.
Never heard of him.
Michael Sally said...
From where? Bellevue Community
Oh,
College?
no, all I could find is that he just has a PhD. And that's what makes him a credible source.
Basket weaving or something.
Sully
No,
said
it's
that
better than I did.
Eisenhower's nocturnal dentist trip is just a cover story. Michael Sally detailed what Eisenhower's trip to Edwards Air Force Base was truly about in his book called Exopolitics, Political Implications of the Extraterrestrial Presence. And he wrote a book, so it must be true.
I mean, if you spend that kind of time, that's dedication.
I kind of want to read the book now.
I do too.
All right. Eisenhower's true reasoning for going to Edwards Air Force Base in the middle of the night was to speak with the white-haired, blue-eyed beings that Byrd had come into contact with. These aliens are known as the Nordics because they resemble Scandinavian humans. The Nordics had traveled to Edwards to establish communication. The Nordics wanted to offer knowledge of their superior technology and spiritual wisdom if we would agree to eliminate our nuclear weapons. They said the reason for this wager was because they were afraid we would cause severe damage to the Earth, and also splitting atoms affects time and space, and it impacts other extraterrestrial races on other planets. President Eisenhower did what any other God-fearing red, white, and blue bleeding American would do. He told those commie aliens to go to hell and decline their offer. That's what I'd do.
Yeah, I do too.
You're probably thinking, we could have had technology beyond our wildest dreams. And you would be right. But there was an other alien race that had their own agenda. Later that year,
Where?
in 1954,
Oh.
Eisenhower had another meeting with another race of extraterrestrials of the sodomizing agenda. Yes, he meant Grace. Eisenhower struck a deal with them. They gave us their knowledge of advanced technology, and in exchange, we would allow them to capture cattle and humans for butt stuff. i.e., medical experiments as long as they return humans safely home.
Yes.
So, Dingo, we have entered into the epilogue of the earth-shattering things the government doesn't want you to know.
So deep in that epilogue.
I took us through a long and corrupt history of cults and secret operations.
You did.
And out of these operations, I revealed the hidden watermarks that was the discovery of otherworldly beings and our secret rendezvous to show you that these mysterious objects the naval soldiers have seen and the Pentagon says they can't explain is a lie. Because they do know exactly what they are and who is operating them. The real question is, why go to these lengths of secrecy if we already have the technology? Why not reveal the information to the public?
Tortillas.
Well, pour yourself another glass of whatever you're drinking. And remember, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
There's only one way to finish this, bro.
Yeah, grab a good old fucking Budweiser there, son.
Look at that red-blooded Americanism. Bleeding red, white, and blue, and probably taking a really terrible dump at about 3 o'clock in the morning.
I need to crack another one to go down the rest of this here. So, let's do this, Dingo. Get the burps out.
Good form, Peter. Good form. Good form.
So, let's jump back to the Dulce bass.
Sweet bass, bro.
We can thank a man called Thomas Castillo. There it is.
Costello?
Whatever. I'm going to call him Castillo.
Okay, why not?
Thomas Castillo was the first whistleblower of the Dulce bass. Now, we can do a whole episode on the Dulce bass itself.
Because it's so sweet.
But that's for another time.
Oh.
So, I will just give you the gist of it. According to Castillo, the bass is where we coexist with several different species of extraterrestrial. From the Nordic to the Grey, the reptilian, and even Bigfoot. You can find every extraterrestrial race here. You know, think of the Dulce bass as the intergalactic border headquarters.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like where the Men in Black have
Yes,
their...
yes. That would be the Dulce bass.
Like the crossroads,
yes.
the airport.
That place is based off the Dulce bass, yes.
Like, really, where do you work? The intergalactic airport. They call us Men in Black. Makes it sound really cool, but we're really just TSA.
No, that's really true. But that gives the segue to what is known as the Galactic Federation of Worlds.
Rick and Morty.
Yes. According to a whistleblower, Corey Good, we have a secret military space program that has an agenda of industrializing our solar system.
Space Force. Very secret.
Yes. And there are extraterrestrial beings who are currently trying to stop our government, who is working with the Greys and the Reptilians to make that agenda come true. Those beings are called the Sphere Being Alliance. The Alliance has created an energetic blockade around the Earth and our entire solar system to stop the industrialization of our solar system. These beings think we have the right to know about our history and who the human race truly is, and has made many attempts to inform us, but the elite, known as the Cabal or the Illuminati, and other entities has stopped them from doing so. In their message, seen by Corey, and is probably the only person that's seen it.
Right? Hold on. I'm intercepting another message from the Vril. Yeah, he's the only person who's seen it. They just told me that.
They explained that once we learn about our history and the technologies being suppressed by the elite, the world economy would collapse and the Babylonian money magic slave system would become obsolete. Which is exactly why the government is lying to us about these flying objects, Dingo. For us to discover, the regular civilian uncovered the secret truths that the Alliance has been trying to tell us about would collapse the whole system. This is why the government won't say the objects seen flying in our airspace are of extraterrestrial origin, because if they did, that would break the treaty between Illuminati's Greys and Reptilians. We would learn about the Galactic Federation and become enlightened.
That was intense.
Now, if you feel like I'm making this shit up, here's the introduction to Corey Good's website. You obviously can't lie on the internet, and why would he go to such lengths to make a website if what he is preaching is not true?
Brilliant deduction, Watson. Brilliant deduction.
If you would like to visit his website, it is called spherebeingalliance.com. Take it away, Dingo.
Oh my God, is this from his website?
Yes, this is exactly
what you want me to read?
This is the introduction to his website, dude.
With all of the events occurring above and below, there is a lot of information, disinformation, and competing agendas that are all competing for fertile places in our consciousness to plant their seeds. Some people have chosen to focus on the more down-to-earth events and battles over the financial debt system. Babylonian money magic slave system. That's it. This is a mouthful. F it. Financial resets, financial jubilee, and gifted money to the masses in prosperity settlements. There's no way he sounds as good as I do. It almost sounds believable as I read it. There's an element of what we call the Alliance that is fighting the current controlling elite known as the Cabal or Illuminati, among other names, down here on Earth at this very moment. Some people have chosen to focus on the more esoteric, for now, events and battles occurring above our atmosphere and what many are referencing as the secret space programs and breakaway civilizations. There is quite a lot of classified technologies that are in use in these programs that are being suppressed and could completely change the nature and quality of life of every human being here on Earth. The free energy technologies would end the need of the current oil petro energy companies. The frequency and light healing technologies would end the current pharmaceutical corporations. The neurological interface technologies would end the need for large education institutions, and the food replication technologies and environmental purification and restoration technologies would end poverty, starvation, and begin to reverse the damage humanity has done to Earth virtually overnight. As you can imagine, the real threat to disclosure is not that humanity cannot handle the truth, or will be, you cannot handle the truth, or will be able to reconcile cosmic life with their religious beliefs. The real reason is that these technologies would immediately collapse the world economies and make the Babylonian money magic slave system of no use anymore. It means the loss of control of the 0.1%, 0.01% elite over the masses, and a complete paradigm change. In short, it means freedom. Freedom for the first time in humanity's known recorded history. There has been a stealth civil war going on among various SSP groups for a while to achieve this result. Relatively recently, the SSP Alliance has joined by a group of beings that no one had encountered before. They are a 6th to 9th density group of beings that have been referred to as the Sphere Alliance. These new sphere beings have since not only created an energetic blockade. This is a lot of like quoted shit.
Quote unquote.
I'm
it's
like,
quote unquote.
Yeah. All right. These new sphere beings have since not only created an energetic blockade around Earth, but have also done so around our entire solar system. They are a non-violent group of beings who have brought assistance mainly in the form of a message. Some people are now choosing to focus on this message that was delivered by the Blue Avians, one of 5 beings, the Orb beings, the Blue Avians, the Golden Triangle-headed beings. Oh my God, are you kidding me? The Golden Triangle-headed beings? I didn't know.
They got triangle heads. That's what we're calling them.
Pyramid head, buddy.
Pyramid head. Oh, ooh, dark. And 2 others who have not revealed themselves to us yet. But we know we're there, because they're unknown unknowns, and we know what those are.
Yes.
The orb beings have been visited many tens of thousands of people in the form of blue indigo balls of light, while others have been visited by the blue avians and given a greeting phrase to know one another by. I don't think I need to be skeptical about this. I think that just spoke volumes.
And sometimes truth is stranger than fiction.
Implying that, yes, this is a real website. You guys can go read that yourself. Everything in quotation marks is the I'm a robot.
You know what? That's just the introduction. There's more, Dingo.
No,
There's more. Yes, there is.
Oh, God.
So if you guys want to know more, head to his website.
Do you want to know more? Click here.
So,
you don't. Run.
Now to end this out, let's talk about the Galactic Federation.
Yeah, Rick and Morty. Booyah.
And what better way to introduce you to the information the Illuminati does not want you to know about, but read the oral history of the Galactic Federation. Taken straight from the NubarianCouncil.com. And like I said earlier, Dingo, if this is not true, why would the Galactic Federation have an internet site?
How can I read the oral history?
A coup, buddy.
Is that where we're going?
Yeah, do it, dude.
I'm just saying
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense. How do you read oral history?
Hey,
Somebody has
man.
to tell it to me or it's not oral anymore.
Well, you're telling it to them, so it is an oral history.
Well, there's nothing fallatiatic about this.
You're about to make it fallatiatic.
Okay. Let's warm it up. Warm it up. I need your help. Get the other side. Get the back. Get the back of the neck. No, I was just kidding. Weird. Awkward. All right. Long ago. All right, Aku, I'm ready for you.
The Galactic Federation of Worlds was established after the end of the First Great Galactic War. This war was fought in the Lyra constellation between the humans, reptilians,
Felines?
Yes.
felines, and Carians.
What's a Carian?
I don't know.
Are they cars?
The Car people. After this war, the survivors decided that they must establish some way to arbitrate disputes so that this kind of destruction of the humans' homeworld, Avion,
Of course it's Avion.
the first Earth, would not occur again. Thus, the GF was established with the founding members between... Thus, the GF was established with the founding members being from worlds in both Lyra and Orion. It's on Orion's belt. Yes. The Lyran's first flagship was Pelagai, one of the few ships intact after the war. Its symbol is the basis for the logo used to represent the Nibiran Council. It acts as a subconscious reminder of that very painful time, as well as the freedom that comes when we achieve the ability to live peacefully with others due to our understanding of unconditional compassion. This doesn't sound like anything I would say. I'm very upset about this. In the beginning, the GF was very small since so few had survived the war. The Lyran Council and Orion Councils doubled as the administrative arm of their new fledgling federation. In other words, they were the girlfriend. Or the GF, the Galactic Federation. In time, new races were created as offshoots of the original four, and the girlfriend welcomed them as they reached galactic status, as we are about to do now. The Galactic Federation of Worlds went through many incarnations due to succeeding galactic wars. At one point, it was nearly abandoned after the Sirius B catastrophe. You all remember that? And then again after Avion 2. Oh, what, that was terrible. Countless lives that were lost in the second grand experiment, but we speak not of that. But in both cases, it managed...
That's 3 cases.
But in both cases, it managed to revive itself due to the surviving members' desire to find a peaceful way to live in harmony and safety within the galaxy. But after the destruction of Maldek, a foolish samurai wielding a magic sword came to the last planet destroyed in the most recent galactic war and the last of the 4 galactic wounds. Instead to the girlfriend going through another major decline. As she does once a month. It's very distressing. The girlfriend became a very large and powerful federation of worlds, mainly because it was now managed by more pro-human races. And true to its original purpose, the current girlfriend of worlds is devoted to universal peace and prosperity and nagging me every fucking day. It's ridiculous. So I tore open a portal in time and flung the foolish samurai into the future, where my evil is law.
That's it. That's the end of the website.
And that's just the introduction to the
That's
Nibirian
more
Council.
introduction?
That's just the introduction. That's the oral history, Dingo.
Wow.
I've been sitting with this in my head for months.
Yeah.
But
I'm sorry it took so long.
now that you have this information, I hope you understand why I said the government is lying and that they have full knowledge of what these mysterious objects are and the reasons why they keep us in the dark about it. You're welcome. And that concludes the bonus episode, guys.
Yeah, hey, look at that.
That was a fun little dive down a real history that took place.
I just love how much Okay, that's getting weird. I just love how often you let me do some voice acting on that one. That was brilliant. A lot of fun.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. And I hope you guys enjoyed it because this is very real. And if you guys don't take this as real, the Severian Alliance, I think that's the Severian Being Alliance, won't get their message across. And that's what they're using me. They're using me as a hub to get their message across, Dingo.
Telekinetically. And in the beginning, I was a skeptic. I know I sounded like a skeptic.
Why do you think I'm growing this fucking hair? I gotta be a conduit.
Scrapunzel. No, by the end of this, though, I'm a believer.
Cheers, buddy.
A portal in time.
All right. This should be released before we release the actual Halloween special, where we will be reading spooky creepypastas. Actually, me and Dino are about to work on that right now. Thanks for fucking listening. I had fun doing this. This was a big adventurous thing that we did.
What's our word? Oh, ambitious.
Ambitious.
This is a very ambitious episode.
Yes, it was. And we almost did it with minimal fuck-ups. I mean, there was maybe 2 or 3 in there.
All the fuck-ups were good.
Yes.
They were good fuck-ups.
I might edit out one because there was one where I just repeated myself. But
or where I'm waiting, trying to figure out what voice to read it in.
Yeah. But other than that, we did a good job, Dingo.
Do you think we did a good job? You should let us know in the comments.
Yes, please do.
Especially if you didn't think we did a good job. I want some scathing comments. Scathing.
Try and debunk my theory, guys.
It's not going to happen. It's not possible. You can't do it. You can't do it. We presented fact after fact after fact. We built a
quote-unquote facts. Quote-unquote facts.
Built a case that's shaped like a pyramid scheme. There's no taking it down. This is a Ponzi scheme of facts.
A strong base. All right, guys. Until next time. Keep on it.
Let's get scratching.